What is up, you guys? It's Joelle, and welcome back to another episode of The Best Life, my little amped up Get Ready With Me series on here, where I just talk about things that I care about, things that you guys request. Today's video is actually requested by a few people on Instagram. So, you know, Instagram released a whole new like Ask Me feature, and it can get really annoying because people's stories get super long. This question in particular, a few people like DM'd me multiple times asking for a dedicated YouTube video after I posted my response. And that question was just regarding how do you integrate your faith into your relationships? Like, what role does it play? And if you want to see my response, it's right here. My faith is the foundation of my relationships as well as all the decisions I make. My faith affects how I control my emotions and my priorities, so it plays a huge role in all of my relationships, especially romantic relationships. But I thought it would just make sense for me to do a dedicated video and just get ready with you guys, and yeah, I guess just elaborate because you guys asked for it and it's something that I really care about and it's super important to me. So, but anyways, as always, I'm going to just be putting on my makeup, going through a few points. These points are not organized in any particular order of importance. They're just like thoughts I had when people were like, how do you integrate your faith into your relationships, or what role does it play? And these are literally just the first things that came to mind. Oh, and if you have not yet subscribed, please feel free to do so. Join the J team, where no one's a bench warmer, everyone's a playmaker, and come join the fam. Let's get started with this. Okay, so to start off with makeup, I'm just using my Bare Minerals Prime Time foundation primer. I really like this stuff. It kind of has that low-key silicone-y feel, but I kind of like that feel. And alrighty, getting into the talk, my faith in my relationships, I think it started being a lot more apparent how important it was this past year. For a lot of you guys who have been following me, you know that I went to ministry school this past year, took a gap year from college, and literally went to go study Jesus and figure out what Christianity actually means. And I found a lot of good stuff and I really liked it, and I really wanted to apply it to my relationships because I knew that was how I was going to achieve ultimate health in my relationships. Though I was always Christian growing up, I just didn't really know how to practically apply it. And for BB cream, as always, I'm using my Neutrogena Healthy Skin Anti-Aging Skin Perfector in Neutral to Tan 40. I just dab this on and blend it in with a beauty blender. A big principle of Christianity is not living in fear. And I think that really stuck out to me, just the concept that fear and love are like antitheses of each other, like they cannot coexist. And I think a lot of problems with relationships is that there are motivations in them that are driven by fear. And for me, I want my relationships to be built on love. So how is I supposed to do that without fear? There's a Bible verse, 1 John 4:18, I think. And it says that there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. So I really took that to heart and thought about it a lot, of just like, what does it look like for me to embody perfect love? And a lot of that is Jesus, because no one has demonstrated unconditional love like God and Jesus, who would literally lay down his life, his son's life, for the rest of humanity. I answered another Instagram question. Someone asked like, what is love? And I said it was obviously, of course, like the feelings of like emotions of affection and stuff, but it's also self-sacrifice. What does that look like when you really apply it to your relationships? For eyes today, of course, I'm just priming as always with my NYX shadow base. And for today's eyeshadow look, I'm doing something a little more neutral. Y'all remember this guy, the Naked Basics from Urban Decay? I'm just gonna use Naked 2 all over my eyelid. This is like a perfect matte look. And I'm doing a photo shoot later today with a friend, and I feel like I should have nicer makeup. I'm just starting out basic. I might touch it up later, we'll see. But anyways, yeah, so with the idea of self-sacrifice being love and how you express love to people, and it's not like dumb, reckless sacrifice. It's like putting someone else's priority and like their well-being above your own. It's not like thoughtless, you know? But with that idea, I think a lot of my relationships started becoming more outward focused, like focusing on others and like how can I contribute to their life experience, basically. And it was really helpful for looking for ways where I could demonstrate love to people. Like, what does that look like in these situations, whether they know it or not? Like, how can I do that? Oh, this is a little funky on this primer. And I think along with like just self-sacrifice, more generally, after going to ministry school, obviously a lot of my prioritization was going with how can I model Jesus with my lifestyle. And obviously a big part of that is relationships, because like Jesus's whole ministry is relationship, and Christianity is a faith based on relationships. I know it's really often construed as like rules and smiting you if you fail and break them, but really at the end of the day, like what God actually wanted and what he proposed from the beginning of time was relationship and intimacy with his creation. But yeah, obviously trying to be like Jesus. Jesus was a pretty solid dude. I know even people who like disagree with Christianity, you gotta admit that like Jesus did a really good job of taking care of people, taking care of the people that were like scorned by society. He was actually very proactive in allowing women to be educated and allowing women to like have a place at the table. He was very proactive in, you know, undermining all of the authorities and all of the systems that were set into place to keep people separated, isolated, and, you know, putting each other down rather than building each other up. And how he did not seek his own fame or like credibility even. He was just looking to love people, looking to make people better, looking to help people become their best selves. And sometimes with a lot of tough love, but I mean, at the end of the day, always with love. Obviously, I'm not going to say that I do a great job at, you know, replicating how Jesus lived, but that is the focal point of how I try to live my life. And I talk about this in my video on relationship major keys, which you guys should check out if you're asking me this question. But yeah, I think it's really important to have like an ideal goal of like who you're trying to be. If you're thoughtless and just going through life in a really passive way, it is super easy to fall into habits and mindsets that you don't actually like. So I want to be the kind of person that I like. So I'm very proactive about being like, thinking about what kind of person I want to be. Next, I'm using a denser shaded brush. I'm going to use Walk of Shame. Kind of mixes foxy. I use a blend of these two and put them on like the inner half of my eyes. Another big part of relationships and how I think I've been able to maintain stability in them is knowing that my identity and my confidence rests on God, not on the relationship. So for example, I think this is really easy with romantic relationships where like that person becomes your whole life. Like your world literally revolves around them. And that is very much not what I try to do with my boyfriend, and we're both very much on the same page about this, where we want to have our own lives. We want to maintain our individuality and become our ideal selves, and we're along that journey, two parallel lines going in the same direction, but not necessarily, you know, the same line. Next, I'm using this Sephora Micro Smooth Baked Eyeshadow. I'm just using the brown color. I'm gonna put that on my outer corners. Don't sleep on these Sephora eyeshadows. These are actually like so buttery and good, and I've had this for ages, so highly recommend. But yeah, I think it really helps you not to rely unhealthily on others to like fill you up or to make you feel good about yourself or to feel validated. Just knowing like, I don't need my boyfriend to tell me I'm pretty to know that I look good. You know, it's nice, but I'm not gonna rely on it. Or if I'm in a fight with like one of my good friends or something about something and maybe they accuse me of something, I can healthily say, okay, I'm gonna step back and evaluate myself and see, you know, why they're saying what they're saying, because obviously they're a friend and I trust them. But at the same time, if I can tell that what they're saying is completely wrong and like rooted in not a place of trying to help me become a better person, but in just like lies and accusations, then I can healthily take a step back and be like, actually, that's just not true. And it's obviously sad when things in relationships don't work out well or when there's problems, but because my confidence is based off of God and what God says about my relationships and what God says about my future, I'm not like, oh my gosh, my whole life is ruined. Instead of getting angry and trying to like get revenge or something to make myself feel better, I'm like, I don't need to make myself feel better. I'm just going to like hope for the best in the health of this relationship, but also be okay noticing when something is getting really unhealthy and when I need to take a step back, and maybe that means no longer being as close with someone or whatever, and it hurts and it still sucks, but it doesn't shatter my whole world, you know? And there's like a balance to all of it where you want to take feedback into consideration, but you also want to be your own human. Hiya, so sorry, I just got off a very long conversation with my mom on the phone, so not gonna lie, I totally forget what I was talking about. But anyways, I did my eyeliner and mascara off camera as always, just because it's the same, it don't change. I don't want to take up camera time to do that. I'm gonna film my brows today because photo shoot, so why not? Another really important part of relationships and faith for me is boundaries. This I think primarily applies to, you know, romantic relationships with physical boundaries. And I normally don't talk about physical stuff so much on my channel, but like for me, I have chosen to not have sex before getting married because that is just a physical boundary that I see outlined in the Bible, and I agree with the benefits. Like I agree with what God says. And obviously I would never judge anyone who does not share those same views because, I mean, just given the world we live in, I'm very comfortable with people disagreeing with that. But for me, that's super important because it really forces at least my romantic relationship to be founded on God and on faith and on similar value systems. There's very little room for perversion with like, oh, it's just a relationship based off of like what you can get physically, and I have an amazing boyfriend who I can be on the same page as for the most part with that stuff. Not that every relationship that like has sex or whatever is only founded on physical intimacy, but there's no room for that in our relationship. Oh, and I'm just using this NYX micro brow pencil to fill in my brows, and I'm gonna top it off with my NYX brow gel. This stuff they use like every day. Swipe, 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 swipe. Yeah, I don't know if that was too much information for y'all about, you know, my non-sex life, but I hope it's helpful for you guys who are curious about this stuff, because people don't talk about it ever, and I feel like for as long as I can remember, I just heard the norm of like, you know, if you're in a serious relationship, you're probably sleeping together, but surprise, not everyone's like that. But yeah, I think also my faith has really helped me not feel insecure about that, where I'm definitely not ashamed to like share that with people. Like in my sorority, or if people just ask, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a virgin. Like it's not really an issue to me. I don't feel insecure. I don't worry if boys will think like differently of me, or I don't worry if girls will think differently of me. Because I'm just like, that's just a decision I've made. It's just a principle. And it's like similarly to how we all make lifestyle decisions, that's just part of it. And I think it's really important to be really intentional with everything. And again, that's something that I've chosen to be intentional with. So yeah, zero shame at all. So I just contoured with my Too Faced Cocoa Contour Palette. I use both medium and dark just because, you know, extra sculpt. Gonna throw on some blush, this Bare Minerals blush in the One. It's just a really natural, like mauve-y, rosy blush. But my last point I think that is really important for me with my relationships and my faith is just learning the value of forgiveness. And that is not a value that is shared, I feel like, among many circles. I honestly, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really had a discussion about forgiveness with anyone who wasn't Christian, which is interesting. But yeah, to me, forgiveness is one of the key parts of how I'm able to maintain healthy relationships with people in my life, is that I don't expect myself to be perfect, and I can forgive myself when I mess up. And also when other people mess up and mistreat me, I'm able to forgive them regardless of if they're even sorry about it or not. I just can say, you know what, like there is a reason, there's an explanation. I might not agree with that explanation for why you did or said the things that you did, but I'm okay with it. Like, not that I'll necessarily like forget about it and let you do the same thing again. I may have to end that relationship. I may have to have a confrontation about it, but I am willing to release you. I'm willing to say that you don't owe anything to me. It doesn't lower my standard of you. I'm going to continually hold you to high standards. I don't have like this hold or this grudge on someone where like they just get at me or like can affect the way that I think or like put me in a bad mood or anything. I can just say, you know what, that really sucks that you made that decision because I disagree with it, but you always have the opportunity to like come restore that relationship if you want. But if they don't want, then that's also their decision. I just have to let them do that because I can't control them. Right now I'm highlighting with my gold highlighter beam from the Face Shop. I've heard people say that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I always thought that was really interesting. Just we don't really think about how when we hold grudges, when we can't forgive or let something go, then it really eats us up inside, you know? Like it is something that we have to hold on to and carry around with us. And the other person, even though like in our heads, like we're holding a grudge, like I'm mad at you or whatever, they might not even know. They might not even care, you know? Like they could be completely oblivious to that we're like festering on the inside, you know, when we see them, and it doesn't affect them at all. And we just end up being unhappy, and I don't want that kind of negativity in my life. To finish this look off, I am using my Rapture lipstick from Urban Decay. It's also a mauve color. I thought it went with the blush nicely. And this kind of all goes back to maintaining your peace and being responsible for your own well-being and not blaming other people all the time, because totally other people affect us 100%. But I don't know, I don't want to give people that much control over how I'm feeling. And this obviously is a huge part of Christianity and my faith, because God forgave us first, and that's how we have the capacity even to forgive other people. And that's why we have the obligation to forgive other people, because we are so imperfect and we mess up, but God forgives us as his kids and he loves us unconditionally. So it puts a lot into perspective, in my opinion. Kind of gives me that sense, almost like forgiving someone is like a privilege that I get to have, and I get to have control over my decision to forgive them. Yeah, and I think it's really cool just knowing that like one of God's names, one of Jesus's names is like the Prince of Peace, and peace is a person that I can rely on consistently. I don't have to relinquish my peace when I'm frustrated at someone, when someone does me wrong. I can forgive them and say, you know, I'm gonna maintain my inner peace and my inner well-being and let you go, learn from the mistake of trusting you or whatever it was, but just be able to continue on with my life in the way that I want to do and not be ruined or destroyed by other people. But yeah, I think those are all the main things I had to say about that. I hope that made sense. And I think it's almost silly to say that I integrate my faith into my relationships, because my faith is the foundation of my relationships, and my relationships literally be crumbling and falling if I didn't have these principles to hold on to and to build my relationships upon. But yeah, so this is also the completed makeup look. Here, I'll zoom in for y'all. Yeah, look at that. Makeup. Matte, really simple brown eye, and mauve lip and cheek. But yeah, this is what I chose to wear on my face today as I was discussing faith and relationships with you guys. I hope this video isn't too long. It's probably pretty long, but we'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to what I had to say about this topic. Please feel free to leave questions in the comments down below if you have more on this topic, or just in general ideas for future episodes of The Best Life. And yeah, and feel free to always to hit me up on my Insta DM or whatever if you have more personal questions that you'd like to address, just because I know sometimes you don't want something advertised for the whole world to hear or see. And I also want to just share that like my relationships have not always been awesome, especially my relationship with my boyfriend. It's doing super well now, but like there have been ups and downs, and then that is totally normal, because we are just figuring things out, trying to make it through life. Sometimes we don't actually know how to do that. So to give you guys any hope, if you're going through rocky times or anything, that yeah, there is constantly like oscillations, and life is literally one huge long learning experience. But I am so happy and thankful to say that God has really transformed my relationships from something that felt almost like arbitrary and like out of control to something that is very intentional and healthy and happy. So yeah, this is getting really long. I need to sign out, but I love you guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on all my social medias if you'd like to see more from my everyday life, or, you know, ask questions on Instagram. I do a lot of like fun little polls and whatever. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Jesus loves you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.